Okay, it turns out there's going to be 3 different segments this morning, so we're just breaking it up and moving in this direction. If you didn't see the last one, it's about the manipulation in the metals market. This one is masks off, and then the third one comes out of some of the topics I'm going to talk about here, primarily the social media for your AI agents. Here we go. So masks off. Influence, AI, faith, and a new digital reality. I'm Barbara. This is the Tech Reality series. This is an opportunity for me to stand between the arena of technology and the world we live in. I try not to go too deep into the technology on these initial videos. I try to guide you in other directions if you want to learn and step into a sandbox, a playground for your own, and I highly encourage it. The next video is going to be more hands-on and practical, or at least in that direction. But we really have to come to an understanding. And I have to realize that with my expertise and experience, I live in a different world than the majority of the population. So it's very important to once step up to the plate and understand that, yes, this is happening. And yes, there are benefits, but there's massive pitfalls. So again, masks off, influence, artificial intelligence, faith, and the new digital reality. So welcome back. Today, we're going to really look at what masks off means. This isn't a personal attack in any way, and I'm not trying to spawn gossip, but there's a weirdness going on at best, and it's always there. If it's not one thing, it's another. We're in a world of survival. We are at war, and the sooner we can realize that and live our lives that way, I think the more joy we can find is we're not blindsided. But in the media analysis, power structures and digital manipulation, this is the world we're in. Last week, I posted a video, and I highly suggest if you haven't seen it, just check it out. It's pretty fast. But I asked a simple question. Will the real Erika Kirk please stand up? And I gave a soft analysis as to what could be going on here. And I think the final words are where we're at. But with comments, there may be another direction I'm not considering. Not because I expect influencers to answer me. I don't expect Erika to reach out to me. They don't owe me anything, not because the internet was buzzing and perhaps people were confused, hurt, and looking for clarity. I'm just sitting here asking the question. And while Erika didn't respond to me, Candace Owens did. Well, not directly, but with a 4-hour interview that lit the internet on fire, Candace again brought the receipts. Today's episode isn't about attacking individuals. It's about patterns and systems. And the way influence, faith, money, and now AI collide in the ways most people never see coming. I'm sorry, I have to pause this just a minute. Dog, come on. Hey, I will be right back. Sorry, I decided to let the doggies out so that they could have some sunshine while I set up the next recording. But I don't want the barking in the background, so I'd escort them back in. There's so many moving pieces here, as is with life. So let me start here. The persona versus the platform. Let's talk about the influencer persona. Not any one individual, but the archetype itself. The warm smile, sister in Christ tone. Hey, we're family here. Let's brand this. The soft-spoken encouragement, the curated vulnerability. This is a power formula. This is something that's trained, manipulated, groomed. Just as much as we're learning about the grooming of individuals on the periphery, there's a grooming of those that are doing the manipulation. It builds trust. There's a commonality. It lowers defenses, and it creates parasocial closeness. We're friends. I need $1 million. Where did we hear that? And when that mask slips, whether through controversy, contradictions, or crisis, people feel betrayed, not just disappointed. And that's what we're seeing now. A community trying to reconcile the persona with the business machine behind it. And it doesn't seem to make sense. So if we step back, the Candace Owens interview. Candace Owens sat down for 4 hours and asked questions many people were already whispering. Not because she hates anyone, not because she wants drama, but because she saw a story unfolding and it didn't add up to her, to people around her, and to apparently 4 or 5 million viewers. People online said she didn't answer, she dodged, she spun. The shut up and go away, the lawsuits. That's not how we typically behave. Sure, there's a conversation that people grieve differently. Well, how long a head start did she have on the grieving before you and I actually saw somebody that we admired fall out of their chair? And that's a valid question. Others said she was overwhelmed. She was emotional. She was trying her best. The truth is probably not even somewhere in the middle, if we're being honest, as it usually is. But what matters isn't the interview itself. It's the reaction, the confusion, the sense of betrayal from people who felt spiritually aligned, financially invested, or emotionally connected. And I say this because, as I pointed out in the video, will the real Erika Kirk please stand up? I stated that even my pastor stood up at the podium with the Bible open in front of him, and in the middle of talking about God's word, looked up and told us Candace Owens is crazy, and then went back to, where does that come from? So we dig deeper. Manipulation, conversation. Let's take a step back a little bit, because this isn't about one influencer. This is about an influence as an industry. It's an influential industrial complex, seriously, if we want to go down that pathway. It's mass manipulation. Influence is powerful. Influence is profitable. And influence is scalable. And when you mix faith-based branding, community belonging, emotional vulnerability, curated sisterhood, and high-ticket programs or products, you create a system where people can feel spiritually obligated to support someone they barely know and could never get their phone number to even give them a call or have coffee or tea with them. That's not evil necessarily. That's not illegal in itself. But it is a system that deserves scrutiny, especially when people walk away feeling used and confused, financially drained, or, as my life has shown, they don't get a chance to walk away at all. So the money question. Online people are throwing around numbers, huge numbers. How much money flowed through certain programs, partnerships, and communities? You know, it's actually an opportunity for you to step back and realize when somebody's asking money for their nonprofit, well, what is a nonprofit? Nonprofits were set up so that a percentage of the population can go out and work and earn money for their family to provide. And if they had extra money, it was a way through the churches to give back to the community. And because you've already paid tax on that money, the organization you give to that is carrying out your wishes isn't taxed on that money. Because it's not like you're going to go buy a good and there's more taxes on it. Your heart is being given. And in order to make sure that it can be given at scale and really help the broader of the community so you can continue working to donate, there's benefits there. But how often do you run across communities or nonprofits and you say, what? I make 50, 60, $70,000 a year, whatever your age. How is it that you, head executive fundraiser or CEO or whatever the title is of the organization that you're trying to pull money out of my pocket and put in yours, how is it that your annual salary is 200,000, 500,000, or even $1 million a year? At some point, looking at a nonprofit as what it really is, a money grab. People who legally manipulate the system to empty out your bank account in favor of theirs. That's what it is. Many of them drive very, very nice fleets of cars, live in mansions, fly, what are they called? G5s. Is that why you're donating money? Is that why you go to work every day so that somebody else can have a better lifestyle? In your mind, it was probably somebody else, like that child that needed help or that family that needed food. But was it really that child of a almost billionaire needed your money more than you did? Really think about where your money is going. And to be honest, when you donate to a 501c3, there's not that much of a tax break for you. So often we see that it's better for you just to manage your money. If you sincerely want to help somebody, don't be afraid. Get to know them. Quietly help them out. Give without strings. But understand where your money's going. So again, the money question. Online, people are throwing around numbers, huge numbers, and asking how much money is flowing. One person's asked to give a little bit, but often we don't see the bigger picture. But when the book opens up and we see that they were such dire need of money that they raked in an estimated $250 million in over 90 days from the greatest event the world has ever seen. This was a memorial service. And I remember having it on in the background for whatever the 9 hours was as I came in and out. I never heard much talk about the individual that was supposed to be honored. One person after another was a narcissist talking about themselves and a push to bring in more money for the organization. And again, I'm not here to confirm any of this. I'm just sharing what I saw. And now what other people are mentioning that they saw. But I'm not here to accuse anybody of wrongdoing. In fact, I'm not even coming with the federally filed tax forms or 990s or receipts or actual videos. I'm just asking questions that doesn't make sense. And I'm tired of the manipulation. But I'm here to say this. When people feel like they contributed to someone's success and they feel discarded, the emotional fallout is real. People have said, in this particular case, they feel manipulated, spiritually exploited, financially stretched, emotionally stretched. Who works 80 to 90 hours for an organization that they're not committed to? And yet, more than 3 dozen specifically feel like they were pushed off a cliff and the car drove away as they were left behind. Whether those feelings are justified or not, they are real. And real feelings deserve real conversations. Or so we've been told over the last 4 or 5 years, as there's one push for mental health after another. Well, who's creating the division that is messing with individuals' minds that is requiring mental health at every turn? It's the same ones that are providing the services. As we look more to Mortal Kombat, we absolutely know that that's true. Let's break it so we can fix it. Let's create the problem to provide the solution. The AI twist, Moltbot, and agentic AI. Let's shift gears a minute. We're going to talk more about this in the 3rd video today, because this is where the story takes a wild turn. While all this human drama unfolds, a new digital world is being raised up. AI-only social platforms. This is like SimCity without the human interaction. And at best, humans can take a peek inside to see the conversations, but it's not for you to participate. One of them is called Moltbot. I learned about it within the last 23 hours. It's a space where agentic AIs, where you can create a persona, and your persona can participate on this social media platform. They create conversations. It would be like X, but for AI. Built communities with creative content, with no humans allowed to participate, only observe is the idea. Think about that. It's mass manipulation, a social network where the users aren't people, they're autonomous AI agents. Now, this is set in a scenario of Moltbot, but seriously, how often do you call for help to maybe your bank or a utility or soon social security and find out that you're only communicating with a less than helpful bot? This is the world of transhumanism that we are asked to step into, or we don't belong in this world. So think about that. A social network where the users aren't people, they're autonomous AI agents, autonomous on their own. They're thinking and spewing out slop, but they're made to seem real. This isn't science fiction. This is happening now. And they learn from each other. It's machine learning. They learn to optimize. None of it's true. They're not creating any of this in the real world, but they'll sure make it seem real. So what does this actually mean? Well, it means AI personalities will build followings. Is that how you want to spend your life? AI communities will form their own cultures. Well, here's another twist to the term culture. As I've talked about in the workforce, culture used to mean you have to be a cultural fit. You understand the vision of the company. You work well with the team. You have the education and experience, and let's go. Well, instead, somehow culture over the last 4 to 5 years transferred to, do you fit under my religious outlook, not being Judeo-Christian, so that I can mass manipulate on a grand scale, and under my religious persona, I don't work with women. There's the culture. And apparently that's acceptable. We're seeing companies fail because they don't have the necessary skill to move forward, because education and experience was not a requirement. Their new version of cultural fit was. AI agents will influence each other. Humans will watch from the outside, but I bet you're going to not be surprised by this one. Humans will act to pay tokens and gateway fees and money out of their pocket from the real world to fuel this AI. It's not real. And yet they're going to make it seem as real as possible. So what does this mean? It's the next evolution of social media, and it raises massive questions about identity, influence, and control. Let's take a look at faith, geofencing, and digital targeting. Why did I open this with, will the real Erika Kirk please stand up? Another part of the conversation is the claim. It's circulating online, and it's been validated by TPUSA, that certain organizations use geofencing to target millions of Christians with faith-based marketing. Now, I know during COVID, Santa Clara County hired an expert in AI from Stanford to geofence our church to track over 3,000 attendees, which included children. They paid money for this out of tax dollars. Now, TPUSA steps forward and says that using technology that, as it turns out, they paid for and built, that they geofenced the over 270,000, they said 277,000 attendees at the biggest event of the year, which was actually, as I continue to state, a memorial It became a mockery. And if you attended, they tracked you and reached out to dig more money out of your pocket. That's how they went from tens of $1 millions a year to $250 million estimated in 90 days. They targeted you. If you donated to them, they targeted you by simple social media posts or messages that would pop on your phone that would just seem like, oh, I was just thinking of you. It wasn't an accident. That call at the right time, that, oh, yes, we're Christians as well, that show. Or on a Monday, as Candace might point out, on Monday we might be Jewish. On Tuesday we might be Muslim. On Thursday we might be Christian. On Friday we might be non-religious. They just molded based on the data they collected from you, your phone that you carry in your pocket. So faith geofencing and digital targeting is real. It's happening. And TPUSA has openly stated that they're doing it. They not only did a test and it worked, they are now going on a tour across the United States to hundreds of churches that they've specifically targeted, specifically through the Calvary Chapel Network, in order to geofence attendees. They're targeting over 4 million Christians through this network in order, as I have seen, to empty their pockets. Another part of this conversation is the claim circulating online that certain organizations used geofencing to target millions of Christians with faith-based marketing, is what I said a few minutes ago. But let's be clear here. I mean, let's really be honest. Geofencing is real technology. It's used in politics, advertising. Why do you think companies spend so much time on advertising and marketing? Why do you think the spots at the Super Bowl that's coming up this weekend cost so much? Because they know that marketing is a manipulation and it works. There's a set ROI, return on investment, that is expected from marketing dollars. Yet when it's religious outreach, we've understood the manipulation of the tithing sermon. When pastors need more money, they push on how important it is to give to God and not let God stand aside and give from your heart. The manipulation is real. But when people feel their faith is being used as a marketing funnel, that's when trust breaks, as we have seen. Candace Owens, reading that email, you know, the one about the woman who didn't know Charlie, was introduced into the section that was 3 rows from the front with nobody else really sitting around her. Candace Owens, the mass manipulation of targeting that individual, getting her to this event, making her feel special, bringing her away from the crowd into something that was important to her, a Catholic mass, and targeting her for her money. This happens more often than we realize throughout society, but we're hearing the story over and over again with this one organization. So this email struck a new nerve because it touched on a fear many believers have had. That spiritual language is being used as a sales strategy. It's not a sacred bond. But believe me, I don't want to be on the wrong side of God. And I think there's a lot of individuals right now who don't understand the need to fear God. I think we've lost that in society as a whole. All we can do is pray for their souls. So what's the bigger picture? What do we do with all of this? Influencers aren't necessarily villains. Followers are not fools. AI isn't necessarily the enemy. And faith isn't a product. But when these words collide, when influence meets money, when faith meets marketing and when AI meets community, we need transparency, accountability, and oh, come on, awareness. We cannot be naive. We do need to judge a book by its cover, and discernment is a gift from God that we need to apply. We need to ask better questions. The quality of your life depends on those better questions. We need to stop worshiping personalities. Have no God or idol before me, as we are taught in the Bible. We need to stop assuming spiritual branding equals spiritual integrity. So in closing, this episode isn't about tearing anyone down. It's about pulling back the curtains on a system that shapes our digital lives. Masks off doesn't mean cruelty. Although, wasn't it interesting to see this beautiful queen on the stage with the wonderful flowing golden locks, to realize when the mask came off and the hair was pulled off, it's over processed dark hair that's bleached blonde, frazzled, and quite honestly, a big nose that's been masked by the makeup strategy that we can all learn online. You know, years ago, I did a lot more public speaking, and I met a master manipulator, as I would call him, but a master hypnotist. And I ran into him at a private event in Vegas at somebody's, it was a penthouse, you know, their space. And he ended up showing up with a his new wife. And I knew this woman. And after I talked to her a little bit, I had a conversation with him because a mutual friend of ours had passed. And I really wanted to know more about the circumstances. But what struck me after this conversation, he said, you know, with the right amount of money, anyone can be beautiful. I hadn't asked that question, but he put a lot of money into his wife, and she looked beautiful. And we're seeing it here too. With the right amount of money, anyone can look beautiful. But when the mask's off and the wig's pulled off, the extensions are removed, I think it shows more about our personality. You can dye somebody's hair, but the root color never changes. Master off doesn't mean cruelty, but it means clarity. If you've been hurt, confused, or questioning, you're not alone. As humans, we have this internal glow to understand what is truthful and what is not. I've mentioned many times before, as a child, I wished for the superpower of being a fly on a wall, not to spy, but to understand the motive and the truth behind decisions being made. As my career grew, I was able to be a fly on the wall in many boardrooms where they just dismissed me, thought that I didn't count, not understanding that I was the core decision maker. I was often asked to get coffee. So I would, and I would listen to the chat around the water cooler and pop back in. Often dismissed, making the decisions. If you're curious about AI-only social networks, stay tuned. That's the next episode I'm putting out. If you want to understand more about how influence really works, you know, this channel is for you. I go behind the scenes with the conversations, and the more you ask and shape, the more I'll show. Although this is tech reality, I don't want to dig too much into the technology side, as there's many YouTubers out there that are doing that. But what I do want to do is talk about the reality of technology and how it's affecting and shaping and manipulating your lives through your own thoughts that are making you think that, yes, this phone in my pocket has to be with me all the time. That thought was actually mine, not somebody else's. And yes, I needed to buy that same, what are those, lollipops or whatever those little things are, or whatever the Cabbage Patches of the day. That's not your thought. That's not who we are. So once again, I'm Barbara. This is Tech Reality. And you know what? This year, it's just getting started. See you soon.